story. I'm just sharing again some of the stories of Rabbi. You know the players, it's of course more interesting. But there was a Yid of Moishe Dubinsky. You all know the Dubinsky family. My dear friend Zalman Rosh Yeshiva, one of the Rosh Yeshivas in Morristown. You guys know him? You know Zalman Dubinsky, the brother Shliach Sam in California. This Zayd was one of the right time. It's Moshe Dubinsky, one of the Gaboyim in 770. It was hard of hearing and nearsighted, so or at least he pretended to be. So he was on the bim always on the bim.
I'm not sure if he was a Rabbi.
What?
I'm not sure if he was a
Rabbi. I don't know if he was a
Rabbi.
Rabbi. I don't. There was some do Gabois, but he was always there. He was a fixture in 770. When I came, he was already an older person, so I didn't know him as Abiel describes him, and Chaim and also know. So here, if you see pictures of them having Yali or whatever, there's a Jew back there, thick glasses. It's a Moishe Dubinsky. So he said, this Moshe was believe it or not, Hakel v'shovevus. Everything was with shtick. It was like a joke, in other words, to describe this in English. He was a jester a little bit. And he wasn't a big Baal Derech Eretz, protocol kind of guy. And when he would talk to anybody, even someone that he truly respected, and he was a chassid, a humble fella, it was all with, everything was always in jest. So he says, this is not just so. Once we were sitting in, Rabbi says, sitting in the Zal and talking, and Moishe comes in, he's all happy. He says, he says, come behind that today I told him, I gave it to him. Who's the him? The him is none other than Rebbe's brother, Sol Arya Label as they called it. Subsequently moved to England, but he lived in Eretz Yisrael. And so he says he gave it to Label. How did he give it to Label? So he said that whenever he would go to Rebbe's brother and speak in Chassidus, he wouldn't understand. He wouldn't understand what he's saying. He said, today I understood a little bit. So I said to him, Label Biskala Givonim. He said, you're getting rude. He said, till now I didn't understand anything you said. But today, even though most I didn't, I grasped a little bit. So that was his gesture. We can be sure that Label enjoyed very much. Rabbi adds over here, just about Label, the famous thing about him. He used to complain about himself. He didn't understand Chassidus. What would he say? To a certain level, in Darge, in Shtalshalos, and I answered what it was. He could speak without using the language of Chassidus and Kabbalah at all. But then, going higher than Ak, whatever it was, he had to employ the language of Chassidus and Kabbalah. And that's a very telling, friends. That's what we're talking about all the time. It's a very telling statement. To be able to explain Chassidus and not use the language, but use your own language. So he says, he used to complain that he can only do that till a certain dark, and then later he has to invoke the language of Kabbalah and Chassidus. One more story about Label, famous story too. There was a time that he was in Leningrad by the Chassidic Rebbe, and this famous story, the Rishim with the dream, not for now, famous story. The dream that the Rebbe conveys to the Rebbe about Label, his brother. At any rate, so once the Rebbe said a maimer, and everybody was tremendously spineless, but he wasn't. On the other hand, it was a very deep maimer. Another occasion, the Rebbe said a maimer, which was a regular, simple maimer, and he went out of his cane from his spineless. And there was some bochim there, so he said to the bochim after such a maimer, he sat down the whole night, he didn't say a word. He took a lot of l'chaim. All he said was such a maimer, tears were streaming down his cheeks. And he said, "Was is wer die Avonas fällt das? What is all the Havana worth if the Das means the connection to it? That's all he said the whole night. So it gives us a little bit of we're dealing with a little bit beyond that world. So Moishe Dubinsky, I'm sure the label enjoyed that little encounter. He says, label, I understood a little bit what you said in the beginning. You're getting color. Okay, friends.